everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm here with.
Mikey.
We're here to talk about today. Pretty much, we want to talk about and bring some awareness to mental health and mental health illnesses because I feel like so many people suffer from it, and it is not enough of a focus in the world. The more that I bring up my personal experiences, the more that more people come together and come to me and share their sides, and it's just so crazy to think that almost every single person that I know suffers from some kind of like traumatic experience. It's just crazy, and a lot of people don't treat it. A lot of people don't do anything about it, or a lot of people are too scared to do anything about it, or they just feel like it's too late. And honestly, like it's never too late. But I'm gonna have Mikey here kind of like go over what mental health is, and kind of give a brief explanation for those people that don't really understand or know what it is. There's a lot of people that don't suffer from it as well, and it's hard for them to understand the people that actually go through it, and it's hard for them to be there for them. And then it's hard for us because when we open up to someone that doesn't know what we're going through, it's very frustrating, and it's very like it's kind of pushes us away, even though it's not either or's fault. But yeah.
All right. So, pretty much mental health. Mental health is included in our emotional, physiological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life. If you think about it, from us in early childhood and adolescence through adulthood, over the course of your life, if you experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, and behavior could be affected, as I'm sure a lot of people have experienced and will probably continue to experience. There's a lot of contributing factors to mental health problems. Some of them include biological factors such as genes and brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma or abuse, family history, or mental health problems as well. Mental health problems are common, but help is available. People with mental health problems can get better, and many recover completely from their mental health problems. If you're not sure, if you know someone that is living with mental health problems or experiencing one or more of these following symptoms or behaviors, these can be early warning signs, not only for people that you know, but also yourself, which some include eating or sleeping too much or too little, pulling away from people and usual activities, having low or no energy, feeling numb or like nothing matters, having unexplained aches and pains, feeling helpless or hopeless, smoking, drinking, or using drugs more than usual, feeling unusually confused, forgetful, on edge, angry, upset, worried, or scared, yelling or fighting with family and friends, experiencing severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships, having persistent thoughts and memories you can't get out of your head, hearing voices or believing things that are not true, thinking of harming yourself or others, inability to perform daily tasks like taking care of your kids or getting to work or school. Now, I think that, like for myself personally, I notice that when I am going through something, whether it's like the anxiety or maybe like seasonal depression, I do notice that, I tend to not eat as much, and I tend
You
to,
lose your appetite.
yeah, just lose my appetite.
Like yeah, like I find myself when I get like that I only eat because I have to because my body is like asking for it, and it's like my stomach is bothering me so much. Like okay, let me go like take a bite out of a cookie or something so that I'll be fine, and like it could leave me alone. But yeah.
Yeah, same. Like even just having a bite of like a burger, and then I can completely not even be in the mood to eat,
Right.
and it's just like that's it. Like, or you don't even think about eating, so you'll go the whole day like doing whatever you need to do, or just doing nothing and just being by yourself, and then next thing you know, it's like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and you didn't even eat anything besides maybe drink water. You know?
If you drink water
Yeah.
or enough,
Mhm.
and then you feel like shit internally and outside too.
Yeah. You might want to hold it a little bit closer. I don't think it's. I just want to make sure it picks it up. Yeah.
Yeah, better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, yeah, definitely. There's times where like I don't even want to
No, you're good. Good.
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of editing on this one.
Yeah. Hopefully they should. Hopefully it
Um,
comes out right.
there's times where like I don't even like I wake up and I have no motivation or desire to do shit like at all. Like I don't want to do anything. Like I wake up and I'm already in a terrible mood. And I just know like that's how my day is gonna go. And like people will tell you like okay like your day just started this way. Like you're in control of your day, etc. etc. Like you have time to turn around and make it up. But when you truly believe in your mind that like nothing is gonna get better for you, that this is as good as it's gonna get for you, and you start overthinking, and there's no convincing yourself out of that. And
Yeah.
if you stay, especially if you're alone and you're by yourself and no one's around, you're not talking to anyone, and these thoughts are coming in and they're dark and they're heavy, like they are very persistent and consistent, and will like fight for you to truly believe that, even though it's not true, even though later when you're feeling a little better you're like wow, like like I could have overcame that, or I would have been fine, or that wasn't true at the point. In that moment when you feel that, there is no like getting you out of that at all. And I think that's the most horrible feeling ever, because if you don't talk about it, if you don't bring it up, it can win. That's the scary part of what happens when it actually does win. What do you do? How do you react? How do you respond to it? Because obviously for everyone has a different tolerance level, and everyone reacts differently. You just never know. It's just very scary.
Yeah, and everybody has their own story and own experiences, and just what they've gone through or what they've had to go through, whether it was their choice or not by their choice. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of stuff that we've gone through, we subconsciously repress it and just push it away, and our brain forgets about it. And then later on in life, when we start to act or behave in ways that we notice that, like, oh, when I was little, my parents used to act like that, or when I was little, this is how like the bullies treated me when I was a kid. And then you start to remember those memories that were suppressed after so long, and then you start to wonder what's going on, like why am I feeling this way, why am I all of a sudden thinking about it. And then it can be confusing. It can be confusing for everybody, I feel like, because mental health is not something that is being given enough attention and spotlighted enough, especially like I feel like today a lot of people, it's becoming more and more well known and more talked about. But prior to this, mental health was just something that nobody wanted to talk about, because if they did, they felt like they were either crazy or people were just going to look at them like weak or
Right. Because when you suffer from it, it's hard to talk about it or even bring it up, because you think you're the only one that goes through it, and you think, you feel crazy. Like you genuinely feel crazy, and you don't like feeling that way. It's not a good thing to think all the things that you think of and to get as low as you get. And then, like people tell you, like let's say you actually do talk to someone, but they don't understand that. They don't come from that same, traumatic background that you did. For them it's like okay, like you're fucking crazy, or it's not that big of a deal or something like that. But it's a very big deal, and I think now more people are aware, which is it's great, but it's still treatment wise and doing something about it wise, it's still not a big enough focus. um
and it's expensive.
and it's expensive as hell. Therapy is expensive as hell, and if you don't have insurance,
Super.
worse.
Yeah. It's almost seen as a luxury to be able to have your health, whether it's like just even seeing a regular doctor or even seeing like a therapist or a psychologist for that matter, because it's like if you don't have the money, then you're probably not going to be able to go to a good one, and then you're not going to get that quality of
treating yourself
of treatment. Yeah.
And it's crazy because I feel like a lot of the people that suffer through like depression and anxiety and any type of mental health illness stems from a point in their childhood. From most of the people that I've spoken to, or like like our conversation earlier, it almost always starts from my childhood. And obviously, as we're growing up, we don't know why things happen. We don't understand them. Eventually it grows normal to us because it happens so often that when we get older, that we become, adolescents, we start getting into our teenage years and we start processing everything all at once because we block it out for such a long time, and then we don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to process it. We just bottled it up inside for years, for years, for years. And now I'm 24 years old, and it's like boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's been doing that for a while now, but not doing anything about it to this extent now has damaged a lot of stuff for me internally, for myself. Um,
Mm.
and it's crazy. I feel like the earlier you know about it and the earlier you do something, the better. Way better. Like, it'll save you from so many things, and it's stuff that, like, my dad went through the same thing. We have mental health disorders and illnesses from both sides of my family. Like, my dad and his brothers were diagnosed bipolar, and we also have that on my mom's side. So it has a lot to do with the genes. It's genetic, and then plus traumatic, like disorders that you go through, traumatic events that happen in your life that you never process. All that together, and just life in general, it adds up.
Yeah, it just makes like a cocktail of emotion and not knowing what to do, and especially for those that are going through puberty at such a young age, or even
Right.
high school, just trying to figure like
Who they are.
who you are, like what life's about, like what you're supposed to be doing, because up until that point, you've had adults and teachers and just older people trying to tell, like, kind of not trying to tell you, but showing you how to act, or trying to tell you this is how you're supposed to act, or this is what's
Right.
supposed to happen. And a lot of it that gets overlooked is the mental health aspect of it. Like, it's okay to want to talk to somebody, it's okay to reach out, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel, like,
Like, don't be ashamed of it.
yeah, like, people downplay and turn away when somebody feels sad because, oh, you're just complaining. Or I've had people tell me that I'm just being a complainer when I'm just expressing how a situation or event made me feel, and it's like, I'm not complaining, I'm expressing myself. Like, I'm not looking to find something wrong with it or what happened. I'm just saying what had went wrong, or for me at least, what made
Right.
me feel something other than like being happy or feeling like myself.
And the worst thing to hear is, because I heard a lot of this, like when I try to open up to my friends and stuff, growing up, the worst thing to hear is, well, there's always someone that has it worse. That
Yeah.
is probably true, but that's a really messed up thing to say, because now you're being considerate of my feelings. So because someone has it worse, that means that my emotions or how I feel or what I'm going through means nothing at all. Like, no, like we all we all go through something, and it's equally as important to every single person that we do something about it and that we process it and that we talk about it, because if it don't, it's long term, it's gonna damage us internally. So, like, don't ever tell anyone that, like, someone always has it worse, because if someone is coming to you and they're pushed themselves and got the courage and are brave enough to talk to you and open up about it, and you tell them something like that, you're gonna shut them down forever, and that's gonna hurt that person. God knows what that person wanted to open up to you about, or is
Mhm.
going through, really feels inside. You telling them that person can kill themselves the next day because, well, someone has their words. Let me just, a quick solution. So I not only is it important for people to be aware of mental health, it's also important to know how to respond and react to people that have it if you have no idea what they're going through. Because if you are so insensitive, you can push and scare that person away, or confirm something for them that they've been wanting to do for a long time. And even though it's not that person's fault, we can always learn on how to, like, how to react to people, how to behave with them. But it's rough.
Yeah, I think that's, you like you said, that's probably like, that's not what you should say to somebody if they
Not
come.
judging anyone that is still doing this, because the point of this is, like, for you to learn from it. Like, if you do that and you learn from this, and you think about it from a different perspective, like, you know what, I do that and I never realized that that could make things worse or harm stuff, but you learn from it, that's perfectly fine too. Like, I'm not here to judge anyone, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. This isn't to call people out or to like to make anybody feel less of themselves or feel bad for maybe how they have handled certain situations in the past when it comes to people wanting to open up to them. I think that this is more of just two people who know and understand what it feels like, and we just want to share that way other people can learn from it and hopefully help people in one way or another, whether you're the person that feels like I can't talk to anybody or I don't know who to talk to, or I feel like I'm just being a burden when I try to talk to somebody. Hopefully you can find somebody to talk to. You can put yourself out there and feel comfortable enough to make yourself vulnerable and really open up and just show who you are and how you feel without living in fear of being judged or anything negative for that matter. And even if you're a person that's somebody that wants to open up and talk to you, and you're that person, you're that ear, you're that like pillar for them to lean on, like you do have to be careful on what you say and how you say things, because you don't understand completely how that person is really feeling inside, no matter how hard they try to get it out,
Or what can trigger them.
yeah, or what can trigger that anxiety, or what can trigger them to have a panic attack or anxiety attack. And I think it's important to understand both sides of it, because at some point in our lives we're going to be on one of the sides, whether we want to be there or not. Life's going to happen, and it happens fast. And if you don't have the right resources, or if you don't know what to do, then you're just going to be making it harder, not only for yourself, but everybody else around you as well, I feel like.
Right. And it's crazy just to kind of tell everybody that's not on Twitter how we came up with the concept of this. But I think, like, it started off with me tweeting something about how I felt, like, my anxiety and my depression and just stuff like that. And especially during the holidays, like, I noticed that it gets really worse. It gets really bad. It gets, like, terrible. And, like, I never really had good holidays growing up. For me, holidays were very stressful, very traumatic. Like, it was just kind of like, crap, it's Christmas, crap, it's Thanksgiving, like, something's gonna go down at the house, like, it's like, I'm not looking forward to it at all,
Yeah.
So when holidays come, automatically I'm just like, if something happens, something good happens, cool, wow, something good happened. But if something bad happens, well, it's kind of already expected, just because my holidays are always like that. And anyway, I was like very depressed, very anxious. I had multiple stuff going on, and I don't really go on Twitter anymore to vent. I used to, but when you feel so heavy and you don't have anyone to talk to, and you're by yourself and you're locked up in a room, like, just like you gotta let it out. So I just kind of started tweeting some stuff. And I think, like, you came and you related to it.
Yeah.
And there was other people, like, I was surprised that a lot of people messaged me on Twitter or replied and things like that, and felt the same way, and their experiences and how they felt were very similar to what I feel every day. And it was just kind of like, it felt good to know that there's other people, that you're not the only one that feels that way. And that there's other people out there, and that you support each other. Like, for example, we might both be going through something or feel depressed or anxious, but it feels a little better that there's someone out there that relates to you, understand, and you kind of have each other for support. And we haven't spoken to each other in like years, and not because fallout or anything, but just life happens, and just everyone grows and goes their own direction. But once that happened on Twitter, like, I feel like it brought us closer. He came over today for the first time I've seen him in years.
I would say like more than 6 years.
More than 6 years, damn. And we've known each other for years now. Like, kids, skateboarding and stuff, or like a group of friends in the neighborhood and all that. But, like, I mean, it's crazy. Back then, we were friends, and all the stuff that we did and hung out and stuff. to talking now about everything that we were going through around that time frame and younger, and not knowing anything about it back then until we talked about it today. Um, but it's just crazy. It's very crazy.
Yeah, I think it was like for me, like this experience has been eye opening in the sense that, like you're saying, we've always known each other, but we didn't know each other that well, or we didn't know what was going on.
It's
And
crazy because we would be like skateboarding every day. My
yeah,
best friend lived literally in front of him, so we would be right there in the alley skateboarding,
yeah,
the rails,
playing
and
around, like playing, like
we
having
have
fun, and
pictures, like when we were kids. But we never. I mean, as kids, like you just worry about going outside and having fun and kind of like putting everything in the back of your head.
yeah.
It's kind of how we got this far, and things just started popping out because we bottled things in so much
Hmm.
that imagine being kids and talking about that, like.
How much it would have made a difference to
Right.
like.
But we were probably like, okay, like he probably lives a normal life.
Hmm.
And you probably thought like I live a normal life, and you
Yeah.
talk about something like that, and we're kids, and I'm like, okay, like this person is crazy, or like, okay, you're weird, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
at the time, your only importance is like let's just have fun and just forget about everything for that time frame. But
No. Yeah.
it's crazy, but at the end of the day, like all that brought us here together, and we just kind of thought like if one person watches this video and it's just even one person hears it and says, wow, like I can relate to that, or I've never talked about it and I never knew that somebody else felt exactly the way I did, then that was my goal for today, or just
Yeah.
for this video in general, that to have that one person feel like they're understood, because it's very very hard to feel like no one understands you.
Hmm.
And it's very hard to explain it too. So when someone explains it and you relate and you understand exactly what that person is talking about, it's such a good feeling. Like you don't feel alone anymore.
Yeah, you don't feel that sense of being isolated from everybody else, like from like just being in society. You don't feel that, oh, nobody can understand what I'm going through because because it's my situation, it's my family, it's my whatever. But there's tons of people that have either gone through the same thing or something very similar to it, to where they can empathize and relate to it in one way or another. And I think that connection of just knowing that like somebody gets how I feel, like somebody understands me, as opposed to trying to explain it to friends or family that may not see it the way that you see it, or may not have experienced it the way you've experienced it from the point of view, is very impactful to just know that we're not alone. Like I'm not alone. Like earlier in our conversation, like how many times did one of us say something and we just looked at each other just
Like,
like we're just like,
down.
yeah, like bro, like I know exactly what you feel, I know exactly what you're saying. Like I felt it, I've done that. Like yes, like that's exactly how I feel. And when I'm in that situation, and when I try to do something or talk about it, it's just like it honestly it made me feel better. It made me feel like like I'm not alone. It made me feel that
Right.
that sense of connection of
And the worst part is like when you're thinking all that and you're going through it with yourself and you're like feeling like you're crazy and you're alone. That feeling is so horrible. Like terrible. Like I wouldn't wish, if you've never felt that, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Like feeling like you're crazy and like you like damn, like am I crazy? Like what's wrong with me?
mm-hmm.
It's the worst feeling ever. But to know like someone else feels that way too, and you know you're doing something about it, or you're in the right direction of doing something about it. That's that's great. That's really great, because it's just like stuff that you said that you would think like you were crazy, that you were thinking of, and that other
Mm-hmm.
people would be like, okay, no. And I was like, whoa, like I feel exactly the same way. Like we both looked at each other and like our eyes like opened up, like no way, like
It
dude,
was a connection. Like
I'm
it
exactly the
was
same way.
that connection of like damn, like I'm not the only one. And it's like I don't know how to explain that. Like I mean, you guys watching it, I mean, everybody's probably experienced some form of that. But just to like come off the bat, like haven't seen each other in years, just having like a regular conversation, and then for it to just get so so personal and so like in depth, and then to reach that point to where it's like, damn, like we are the same in the sense that like we get it, like we understand, like we understand what it feels like, or to come from a place of you know, not having self-esteem, or to not think that you're good enough, or no matter what you do it's not going to be good enough, and to always wonder like, did I do something wrong, or am I not enough, am I not doing something right, or to look at yourself. And you know, like for me personally, I used to look at myself in the mirror and I would start crying, because it wouldn't be like because I was sad, it was more of just
You didn't like what you were looking at?
yeah, it'd be more of like frustration and not liking who I saw, because I didn't see anything that these people around me were telling me. You know, like I didn't see somebody that was like smart. I didn't see somebody that was like caring or whatever, like or selfless. Like I didn't see a person that was attractive. Like I didn't see anything from myself for what people were saying. And I think that has a lot to do with the self-esteem, and also, you know, it echoes from being a kid. Like I was bullied in middle school. Like I was tiny. I didn't hit my growth spurt till like 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. So for the longest time, I was a small little quiet kid, and people would just take advantage of me, step on me, like, and it sucked because I didn't feel like I could talk to somebody, because the way kids at school made it seem is like if I try to talk to somebody, like I was just, you know, like I was just being like a baby, or I was just being like,
A girl.
yeah, like a girl, like for crying, or like for feeling sad, or feeling like a certain way. And to have dealt with that and have to hold those emotions in for so long, it really does like start to mess with you, and it starts to eat away at you, and take away like who you are as a person, and how you see yourself. And I just hope that like nobody in school or even out of school, like I hope nobody has to ever feel like that, like they're not enough, like they're not going to ever be enough, like how they are right now, that's it for life. Like nah, like you can change, you can make changes, it's all in your control.
And it's scary going through that and ever thinking about like having kids and then your kids going through that because I mean, not everybody knows, but I wasn't born here. I was born in Mexico. I went to school in Mexico for a few years before I came out here. So when I came out here and I didn't move here right away, I lived in Fresno. I didn't know English at all, like not one word. Like my mom did. My dad worked here weekends, so he would go back and forth, and then he eventually ended up working here permanently. So we moved over here. And when I went to school, I didn't know anything. Like most of the kids in my class were Hispanic, so they knew Spanish, but like they would make fun of me because I didn't know English, or I didn't understand, or they would say stuff that they knew I wouldn't understand, in front of me, and I hated it. And like I'm thinking about it now because I totally forgot about that. I blocked that moment, but I haven't thought about that in such a long time until you mentioned that. But I think that kind of like shaped my character to who I became later. That I had to be like this tough person, like and like if somebody tried to walk all over me, like like no, like I'm gonna talk crap to you, or like I'll beat you, like some stupid stuff, But thinking about it now, when I first moved out here and I didn't know one word of English, and people were making fun of me, and my teacher was trying to teach me how to like speak English and stuff like that. I remember not looking forward to going to school like at all. Like I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to wake up and go. Like I hated it. I didn't understand what I was doing. I felt like I was lost. I completely moved, had to make new friends. I didn't really have friends. It sucked. And then I remember, and I always think about this. I guess this goes back, which I didn't bring up with you yet, but I remember we were doing like an assignment in class. And at the time when I lived in Fresno, we were very poor. We lived in a trailer in my uncle's like front yard. So they had like a question, like kind of like talk about yourself, put your name, whatever. And then it said like, what type of house do you live in? And then it was like, I looked like a regular house. It was an apartment, like a condo, and then like a trailer. And everybody around me was like circling the regular house, and I was like you know, like, I've never thought about it prior to that, but I was really happy living in that trailer. Like, I saw nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Then I started feeling like ashamed of it. Like, damn, like everyone else lives in the house and I live in a trailer. I started feeling embarrassed, and I remember lying and put that I lived in a regular circle in the house and feeling really bad about it later. Like, not understanding why or thinking that there was something wrong with it, when in reality I had no problem with it. Yeah, we were poor, but I was happy, you know. Like,
And there's still nothing wrong with it. Like,
Yeah.
wherever whether you live in like a trailer, a house, mansion, apartment, whatever it is, like a 1-bedroom with your family, like it doesn't matter where you live. Like that stuff kind of ties back into like the materialistic aspect of how people, of like the
Right.
materialistic aspect of like standards, you know, of, oh, you're supposed to live like this, you're supposed to do like you be like this or act a certain way. Like if you came from, you know, like living in a trailer, like, oh, like people look at you like, oh, like what's wrong, like what was wrong with you, or like
Right.
what was wrong with your family or whatever. It's like, doesn't mean something was wrong. Everybody's just, and everybody has a different situation and a different story, and how they ended up where they ended up. And if you think about it, like that played a big part as far as like, you know, like I see that as like you kind of learning like from a young age, like it's okay, like it doesn't matter where you come from, like,
Right.
you know, it's like how you said you felt bad for like circling the
Like, I felt like I had to because everybody was too, you know.
yeah, of course.
But,
And there's
then
that,
I'm thinking
that
about it,
pressure.
like, you know, I had some of the best times of my life living in that, you know, trailer or whatever. And then I remember, like, when I was learning English and all that, and I was learning word by word and stuff like that, I was getting better. And, like, some kid, like, out of nowhere for no reason, just because I was a new kid, he grabbed, like, the pencil and boom, just stabbed me.
Oh,
like, right here. And I, like, literally exactly right here. And I remember, like, being in shock, like, what the heck? And there's like literally a pencil stuck in there, and I had to go to the nurse's office. My mom had to come pick me up, and I was just like I
Damn.
hated it. And then it's crazy because once I started, like, I eventually learned English. I didn't learn it pretty fast. Like, my teacher gave me a book, and like boom, I was speaking. And I wasn't really there for a long time. I think I was in Fresno maybe for like a year, maybe less, like 7 months. And we ended up moving here to Compton. I still lived in that trailer, and now we lived in my cousin's backyard. And I came to school here in Pijo. I went to 15th Street School. And I remember, like, you know, I knew English enough. Because keep in mind, like, I was in first grade. I went to first grade in Mexico. And then I went to first grade in Fresno. But the first grade that I spent in Fresno was only a few months, even though I lived longer. Because I had already went to first grade, like, partial of my first grade in Mexico.
Yeah.
And then I finished it there, and then I moved here. But it wasn't long enough for me. So when I moved here, I started, like, I went to school. Same thing. First day, like, somebody tried to punk me.
Oh.
Yeah, first day somebody tried to punk me. And I knew, like, pretty well Spanish, English. And, whatever. So this person tried to punk me, and I don't remember this. I know that it happened because I felt it, but I remember blacking out. And I remember going up to that person that tried to punk me and, like grabbing, like I don't know how, like, just, like, punching that person, and then, like, walking away, like, you know, like, but it wasn't even like a punch. It was like, you know how you used to play handball in elementary school?
Yeah. Oh.
And, like, you used to kind of go like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, I can't remember how. Like, it was like something came over and controlled me, and I just kind of went boom like this to her stomach. And I remember it's like she ran to the principal's office and she told on me or something like that. And keep in mind, they don't know how much English I know. They just know, like, that I don't really speak that much, but I knew enough to understand. And I just remember the principal asking me, like, oh, did you do that? And I'd be like, huh? Like, I don't, like, in Spanish, like, yo no hablo inglés, no sé qué estás hablando. And then he'd be like, oh, like, well, you know what, just make sure, you know, everyone plays safe and you're good, blah, blah. But yeah, like, I remember doing that and blacking out completely. Like, I know it happened.
Damn.
So I really believe that I didn't do it, but I felt it. Like, it's so
Yeah.
weird, but yeah, and I dealt through a lot of that. Eventually, like, you know, the first few books that I read were Harry Potter books. So then after that, like, my English was really good. Like, that same year, there was, like, another girl in that same classroom that spoke English and was born here and would make fun of me too. Like, like, you know, you're from Mexico, whatever, blah, blah, even though she was Mexican.
That's so weird.
And she ended up flunking that grade. And I passed. And I remember passing with, like, college level reading and like college level stuff like that. And it's just like just crazy how life works out. But
Yeah.
it's just kids. I feel like kids, like, I don't know, maybe because their traumatic experiences, they feel like they have to be somebody for other people.
Yeah.
And then it just happens. But it's just like there's no reason. I don't know. Kids can be really, really cool.
Oh, definitely. Kids can be the cruelest. I mean, just I feel like they're the meanest just because they're so honest. Like
Oh my
kids,
God.
kids.
I hate being around kids because they tell me something. If they tell you look like crap, like, damn.
If they tell you
like, I
something's
look like
ugly,
crap.
it's probably ugly.
Yeah.
Or they tell you.
And it can hurt. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
It can hurt. If a little kid comes up to me and tells me like you're ugly, I'm like, you're right.
Damn, tell me, dude.
Like I already feel that way, but thanks.
I was working the winter camp like last week, and it was for 2 weeks. And the first week, like the first day, all these kids are like these kids that I kind of know, like from the summer camp. Like these girls, they come up to me. These little girls, they're like, the first thing, do you have a girlfriend? And I'm like, no. And I thought it was funny. I'm like, no, why? And they're like, and then they were just so shocked. And I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong with that? And they're like, well, just like, you don't have a girlfriend at all? Like, not, you don't even want one? And I was like, no, I don't. Like, why can't I was like, what's wrong with that? And they're like, oh, okay. And dude, they don't stop asking. Like, I'll tell them every 5 minutes, like, no, I don't have one. And they're just like, okay, so do you have a girlfriend? And I'm like, what? Like, what is that even?
And you're like, should I have one? Am I failure because I don't have one?
Yeah, and I'm like, I start thinking, I'm like, is there something, like, should I? Like, you guys are kind of fucking with my head right now. I'm not going to let you know that, but damn.
And then really we don't think about it. Like, these kids don't know any better. They don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
and we're listening to them, but
their biggest problem.
I feel like eventually, like when you're a kid and you're growing up and you're getting bullied and you're going through that, I feel like eventually you kind of become that person too. Like you build a shell for yourself. At least from my personal experience, when I went through all that, I was just kind of like, I'm not ever gonna let anybody like mess with me like that again. And at one point, I feel like I became the bully too, because you go through it so much and you don't want to go through anymore, that you feel like if you don't become the bully, you're gonna keep going through it. And not necessarily bully someone, but like if someone messes with me, we're like, all right, I'm gonna call you a name that's 10 times harder, or something, or do something stupid like that. But it's just, I feel like parents have to kind of like, it wasn't a focus back then. I think now it's not as bad, but back then parents never really focused on teaching their kids on like, being nice, everyone being, okay with each other. And even if we're all different sizes, colors, shapes, whatever, like at the end of the day, there's like a human being behind that person. And, we should treat each other with love and respect, because what do we get out of building hatred for people, or, being mean or whatever? Like, what does anyone really win out of that? Except you bring hatred into your own self, and then you grow up with that hatred, and, like that hatred, like, affects you in your life and your everyday life. And then you never understood why. Again, like,
until something happens, or until something like, you have like an epiphany or something clicks one day and you're just like, that's why I'm like that. Like, I start to notice, like, when we get into arguments or whatever, like I would start to notice, like, dang, like I sound like my mom's arguments that I would hear when I was little. Like I would hear and see like how they acted, and in my head, for some reason, just being a kid, where kids are just sponges, they just absorb everything. Like that's what you do when you argue. You be the loudest.
And even though you hate it, and you were growing up and you hated that specific behavior, or whatever, it's like when you grow older and you never process why, or what's right or what's wrong, or understood it, or like it comes through you too, and then you hate it, but you're doing it and you don't know how to control it. Like there's so many things that, like growing up, my parents were very, very toxic with each other. Not necessarily the relationship with us as kids or with me as a child, because I was an only child for about 7-8 years, but with each other, I feel like they had so much. Again, both my parents went through a lot of traumatic stuff, and I feel like everybody, all parents, that's why we are the way we are. They went through so much traumatic stuff that they never went through or processed or understood, that the stuff that they saw as kids, both their dads being alcoholics, going through the same stuff, toxic relationships. They brought on to me. And being 2 years old, 3 years old, and remembering all that and moving up, detail by detail, all the stuff that's going on, it's just crazy that I blocked so much out of that from my memory that it came out once I was older, and I'm hearing myself doing it, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like it's just it's crazy, but
It's crazy to see what you didn't like, but you see it in yourself.
right.
It's like a hard reality check, kind
And
of.
you know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like
But-
there's so many things I hated about my dad that I found myself doing with either my friends or people that I love and stuff like that. And it's just like, I know it's not right. Like I need to do something about it. And if you don't do something about it and you prolong it longer and longer, you're going to make shit for you really, really hard.
Mhm.
Like there's just like, it's just crazy. Like your temper, and obviously it's already in your genes, and then growing up with that and seeing that, it becomes you. Like it sucks, but it becomes you, and you got to do something about it. Because I think about it, okay, now I know what it is. I know what I'm going through. I know why I'm going through that. What am I gonna do about it now? Like if I don't do anything and I continue to live my life every day like I'm normal when I know I'm not, I'm only doing damage to my own self because I'm not doing anything about it. And I always thought, like, I knew, like, okay, like, I need to talk to somebody about the stuff that I saw, the stuff that I went through, like, scenarios that I remember vividly. Like, I can paint them like a movie in my head when I was younger. And if I don't do anything about it, like, it just gets worse. And I talked to my sister because I went through, like, 7 years of my parents' toxic relationship, them fighting, them chasing each other with knives, them, running in and out the house, and me being by myself, screaming on the top of my lungs, crying, for years on my own, like by myself. I didn't have siblings, cousins, nobody that I could talk to about that. No one, like, you don't even think about talking that with someone. Once they made up, okay, that was it for me. Like, I'm good again, But then when they fought again,
Yeah.
it was over and over and over again. And
Did
now my parents are completely different people. They're not the people that they were back then. Like, they are, like, the relationship I have with them is amazing, which I didn't have growing up. And their relationship with each other, like, they went to therapy, they took classes, they took anger management classes, they talked about it. It was a process, though. It didn't happen overnight. It's obviously like a work in progress, but they're completely different people. But we talk about it now. Recently, we addressed it for the first time. And it's like, for me, that stuff affected me a lot.
Yeah.
Like, a lot. And it affects me every day at work and my relationships with, my friends, and just in general. It affects you every single day until you do something about it. And I finally decided to see a therapist, because I had seen one in the past, but like I was telling you, it was like a religious therapist, and I feel like you can't mix those up. I mean, it was free, so I guess it was just kind of like, that's why probably took me to it, because it was free, and like, all right, do something about it. But
Yeah.
it's just a completely different take. And this specific therapist, and like I said, it's very expensive. Like, I don't have insurance, so it comes out of pocket. So my dad was telling me that he goes to a specific therapist, et cetera, et cetera. He's legit, send me his information, whatever. And I was like, okay, like, let me do something about it. Let me go check it out. And like, I don't lose anything by going out of it. I mean, maybe the money, but
Yeah.
it's like, whatever, let me try it, right? Like, I'm not doing anything about it now. So I go, and I think I told him, like, my life. And in the matter of an hour, I told him about my life from age 2 up until, like, recently, until the most recent events. Like, I could talk. So
Yeah.
we were talking, real quick, and he told me, like, that I have PTSD, that there's stuff that I never processed, that I just bottled stuff up for so long, and I just blocked it completely from my memory. And now that I'm older and I'm going through stuff and I'm an adult, it's all coming back to me. It's just like, it's just crazy. But, within that first therapy session, I walked out feeling a lot better about myself. Like, okay, I'm doing something about it. I'm going in the right direction, Like, it's not just me keeping my thoughts to myself and going crazy. Like, this guy heard me out. He gave me advice. He put things in different perspectives for me, and everything clicked. And I walked out. It's like, okay, like, I felt good. I felt good about myself. I like the progression. I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this, and we're going to see where this goes. But It's just like, it's just as simple as going. Now, when I walked out, I was like, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt as well. Like starting therapy, I started maybe like beginning of last year, and that's word like verbatim. That's exactly how I felt. I almost like told myself like I wish I did this sooner, because for so long, like you were saying, you know, I was putting it off. I was like, I know I should talk. I should probably talk to somebody. I was like, I'll do it. Like I'll do it like later. I'll do it later. And then life keeps happening and stuff keeps adding up, and
Just your anger gets built up inside, your
Mhm.
emotions, everything that you ever felt. You don't process it, and it builds up time and time and year after year, that eventually one day you're going to freaking blow up or do something completely stupid on, you know, someone who doesn't deserve it, or you know,
yourself.
or yourself. And it's just like, then you think like, damn, like, how did I get to this point? You know, what could I have done to prevent this? What could I have done sooner? But, you know, like, once you get to that point, it's just like, okay, it's more of thinking like, what am I going to do now about it? Can't go back. There's no point in overthinking, because, like, you know, we're both talking about how we're both very big overthinkers.
Yeah,
Like,
super big on that.
Huge. Like, I can obsess over something completely made up in my head that is not true, real life, or even close to being true, and make up 30 billion scenarios of it, and 30 billion people in there, and like drive myself crazy, and I'll get really, really bad anxiety with those scenarios. And then I could talk to someone and accuse them of whatever scenarios are going on in my head, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah,
where the heck did that even
And-
come from?
and
And then
then-
it makes you feel really freaking crazy, but you just can't help it. And overthinking, I feel like, is one thing that makes your depression and your anxiety so much worse than it already is, because it's just like,
and
like,
it's
you feel like you can't get out of your head.
yeah, and it's like it's such a hard thing to stop doing too. Like overthinking, like to me, I think people that like have a problem overthinking, or they overthink a lot, I think they just have a highly active, like their brain's highly active, and if they don't occupy their brain and get it to do something, that's like the first place your brain goes. You know, it's like there's not like, okay,
Right.
what am like let's start worrying about this. Let's start worrying about this. Like, oh, start thinking about this. Start thinking about this person. Start thinking about when you did this, or this person's, where's this person doing? Or like, I've noticed that like even with my friends, like my friends in relationships, it's like, you know, I guess it'd be easier to talk about like if it's like a relationship wise, like when I like somebody, like I'm very oblivious to like whether or not somebody likes me back, just because I don't like I'm afraid of like thinking they like me, and then I make a move where I try to like open up a little bit as to like how I feel about them. And then in my head, when I do that, in my head what happens is they're not on the same page as I was, or they don't feel the same way that I felt, or they weren't thinking the way that I was thinking about.
Or you think you're not good enough for that person to
Yeah,
see you in that way.
Exactly that too. And I'm just like, oh, you know what? That makes sense. Like, it makes sense why you wouldn't, like, to me, I automatically think like, oh yeah, it makes sense why you wouldn't be into me, because
Right,
I'm
right.
not,
'Cause
I'm
you
not,
feel a certain way about yourself.
yeah, of how I look at myself. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, I'm not like that good looking, or I'm not that outgoing, or I'm not like,
Right.
I don't have all
Compare
these
yourself
things.
to other people.
Yeah. Just comparing, like, I think that's one of the biggest things that I have a problem with is
Like, personally
comparing
speaking, I
myself.
think for both of us, I feel like we both stopped ourselves from jumping at opportunities and doing things
Mm-hmm.
so many times without realizing, because of how insecure, sad, or depressed we were.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you know
agree.
what I mean? Like, we could have enjoyed stuff growing up a lot more
Mm-hmm.
if we weren't so, you know,
Yeah. It's
like if we
just
weren't
so
like that, just
so insecure,
overthinking,
self-conscious.
anxious, so like low self-esteem. Like you said, like I hated looking in the mirror. And I remember like I would get compliments from like my mom, my parents, or people.
Yeah.
Like, nah, like what? Like, no, like, you know, you're this, you're that. And I just like, I hated when someone would give me a good compliment, because I didn't truly believe it inside.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, oh, like,
So
don't tell me that.
It felt
right?
weird hearing it's like
felt
like
weird.
like almost like you're kind of just like, I feel like you're lying to
Like
me.
you're lying, yes.
Like, I feel like you're lying to me when you tell me
Like
this
you're
stuff.
just telling me that because you're my friend, or because you're my mom, or because like, you know, like
yeah,
just
like you're obligated to, like you kind of have like some sort of obligation to me in one way or another, you know,
And
like
it's such an ugly feeling because to this day we still have those insecurities that we're
mhm.
working through, and you know sometimes those insecurities come out over dumb, stupid stuff, but like then it goes back to doing something about it, you know.
Yeah.
But
But like I mean, I think a lot of it too is when you're going through something, I think that everybody needs to have some sort of expression, like some sort of outlet
yeah,
to where you can go either in your head or physically go somewhere and do something that takes you away from life, in the sense that, you know, you forget about everything, you forget about your problems, and you are just focused on that one thing, whether it's like painting, sports, whatever it is, writing, like journaling, like whatever it may be. You need to have that escape. Everybody needs an escape from life, because shit gets bad, and life gets hard, whether you like it or not. Hopefully people can take away something from this, whether this was helpful in one way or another. You know, like we said, we just wanted to do this because
I feel like there's so much to talk about, so we're probably gonna have to break this up in like two parts because
yeah,
there's like subtopics on subtopics and scenarios and different
yeah,
types of, you know, disorders and illnesses that you can have. But I feel like you were saying, back to the outlet thing, especially if you're anxious, you're an overthinker, and you're alone by yourself and you're on your phone on social media for hours and you're not doing anything about it, it's only gonna get worse. Like, and it's hard to convince yourself to leave because I think you fall into the not liking the depression, but not doing anything, not wanting to do anything about it. Like, I'm just gonna be depressed here and I'm not gonna do anything about it, you know?
yeah.
But I think like try to focus. Like, even if it's going for a drive real quick, going outside, taking a few breaths of air,
Going for a walk.
going for a walk, like do something different, but do it consistently. Because obviously, if you're doing the same thing every single day and you're feeling terrible, you're feeling depressed, like you're not. It's not gonna get better. You're in a routine. Like, you need to do something different. Force yourself, change your lifestyle. Like, get into something, find a hobby. Like,
Whatever makes you happy, just do that. Like, it's
even if it's for 1 hour a day or 10, 30 minutes, like those 10, 30 hour can make a difference in your mental health and in your life. Like, when you're overthinking and you're overstressing and this and that, like I overthink a lot and I get really anxious to the point where like now I find myself having like to catch my breath, and I'm like, and I freak out and like I have more scenarios in my head, and then I notice that it's really a lot of the times it's right before I go to bed, and I get really bad anxiety, and sometimes it's so bad that I get scared to go to bed because I feel like I'm gonna like not wake up, like I'm gonna die or something like that, and it's bad. And then, you know, like I don't talk to anyone, I'm overthinking, I'm making stuff worse. But like, let me just go for a drive real quick, let me go grab a quick like an ice cream by myself, or let me go somewhere like a park or something where there's people around and there's like fresh air or something, even if I'm not with anybody there, so I can feel a little bit better. Let me do something different. And like now I just started like, because I was very athletic growing up. I played all kinds of sports and stuff like that. And I feel like stopping suddenly, working a lot, not having like that work-life balance, and, you know, going through life and stuff happening to you, like it messes you up, you know?
Yeah.
So I've started like working out again every day. I'm starting to eat a lot better, doing a juice cleanse, and, you know, going to therapy. And I'm feeling a lot better. Like, I feel like I'm doing something, I'm progressing in my life. And even if I'm not always okay, or sometimes I hit a low really bad, like, I know that I'm doing something about it. And the most important thing to understand is that you're not going to feel or change overnight. And you're lying to yourself and anyone else if you think that's the case.
Yeah.
It takes time. It's a process. But it's okay. It's okay that it's a process, because if you're doing something about it, you're going to move forward in the right direction and you're going to overcome it.
True. That's crazy that you said that, because there was this one quote. Dang, where is it? It was saying it was a quote, and basically they were talking about the the journey. It's like it's not about where you end up, but it's about like the journey and how you got there. And so don't, you know, it's like, I think that what you do and how you do it is going to be more important than where you end up, because that's that's you taking care of yourself. That's your character, you know, like you're going to learn a lot about yourself if you can make yourself go through these times that feel hard or these challenges in life, because once you get to the other side and you overcome and get to the top of that hill of whatever that challenge was, you look back and you're like, dang, like, yeah, it was hard, but now I'm looking down upon it, and it's beneath me.
Like I made it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like that sense of gratification of accomplishment, of, you know, like that integrity, like I did it, like me, like
Right.
like just the confidence that you gain from just do something small, like do something small that you can accomplish it, and watch how much your life will change, like how better you'll feel once you are able to complete something, a goal or whatever it is that you set out for yourself. It'll really change the way that you feel, and not only how you feel about yourself but about life in general. You'll start to look at things a lot better, and just start to appreciate
you have, like,
things.
more positive outlook.
Yeah.
Like when you start feeling positive, you spread that positivity instead of like the hatred that you have inside, where you're like, you know, you catch yourself like, why am I like this with people sometimes, like, you know?
Yeah.
But then I noticed that too. Like I see some people on Twitter now, and like, you know, they're going through it or they're having a hard time or whatever, and it's like, okay, from one person to another, like, let me support you. Like, you know, I hope you get through this, or I don't know what you're going through. Like, kind of like us before we knew, you know,
before
had
all
a glimpse
this
of all that.
Yeah.
But I just think it's important too to like just like you're overcoming it and you're feeling better about yourself, to spread that positivity, like share the love, make other people rub off of that energy too. It's just crazy how much like you can get out of doing something for yourself. And even if you not ready to do anything yet, but you never felt like someone understood you, and you watch this video and you're like, wow, I understood. Even if you can't afford therapy, like before I was watching therapy, I was watching like TED Talks and like YouTube videos and stuff about this kind of stuff, and conversations, and, you know, learning outlets, and, you know, little things like that on my own, and stuff like that helped. I wasn't consistent with it, but now that I'm going to therapy and things like that. It's like, it's very important to be consistent with it, and you know, it's gonna change your life. Like for me, my goal this year was to start my healing process, to become a better person, to work on myself, because obviously if you're not healed, if you're not working on yourself or anything like that, like it's gonna impact you, the people around you, your life, your career. It all starts with your mental health, how you feel and how you are
from inside. Yeah.
Everything revolves around that. But well, we're probably gonna cut it off here.
Yeah, the camera battery's flashing. So it looks like this is gonna be the wrap up. Just, you know, we hope that.
And if you see us on Twitter or me, like, I don't judge. I don't care if you want to talk.
Yeah.
Anything. We had a completely open conversation after 6 years of not seeing each other or like hanging out or actually having a real conversation. Just reach out. Like, don't be scared.
Don't hesitate. Yeah. The strongest thing you could do is make yourself vulnerable. That's in my opinion.
That's the hardest thing to do. And once you do that, once you make that first step, like, you already made a huge step into changing it.
Yeah, that's a lot of progress. So just take care of yourself and try to, you know, take care of everybody else around you too, because we all need somebody to lean on at some point, because we can't do it on our own.
If you feel like you're alone, there's always someone that understands you. There's always someone that loves you. There's always someone that cares for you. Just don't let it sink in. Like, beat it, like fight it. Even though it's so hard, just fight it.
True. All right.
If you guys have any questions, want to talk or whatever, you guys want to comment, maybe next topic, because I feel like this topic can go on forever. Just let us know.
You want to throw your Twitter at?
Oh yeah, my at is Alex Ramirez, AHLEX RAMIREZ.
Mine is at Mikey Posad, MIKEYPOSOD. Yeah, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Peace.